A sunflower tracks the sun, a bee remembers a flower, a child tells you who they are. Are these all conscious, or are we asking the wrong question? In the last few videos, we explored consciousness from different angles: presence, definition, subjectivity. But now we shift from reflection to structure. This is the start of mapping consciousness, a framework I've developed to think about consciousness in a more flexible, layered way. It's based on a simple idea. Consciousness isn't something you either have or don't. It builds in layers across species, systems, and states of mind. What I'll share over the next few videos is my own approach. It's not a theory in a traditional sense, but a practical model, something I've shaped by reading widely, thinking deeply, and trying to make sense of what consciousness looks like, beyond just human minds. We'll look at 5 core functional capacities that help describe how consciousness appears, not just if it does. And we'll use them to map awareness in plants, animals, people, and maybe even machines. This is where the framework begins. Let's step into it. Most of the time, we treat consciousness as a switch, on or off, conscious or not. We use that logic in science, in ethics, even in how we talk about animals, infants, or machines. But the more you look, the more this binary breaks down. A human in deep sleep is alive and responsive, but not self-aware. A fish might feel pain, but not reflect on it. A dog can remember, anticipate, and dream, but can't plan retirement. And a child slowly develops a sense of I, one that didn't exist just a few years earlier. So where do we draw the line? Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't need to. So what do we do instead? Instead of asking, is it conscious? Let's ask, what kind of consciousness is present here? How deep, how layered, how complex, or how simple might it be? This is the shift that matters. It moves us away from black and white thinking and opens space for nuance, variation, and empathy. It invites us to see consciousness as something that exists in profiles, not categories. And it's a shift with real consequences for how we treat animals, how we evaluate AI, and how we understand our own minds. You don't need a neuroscience degree to sense this intuitively. Look at a sunflower. It turns throughout the day tracking the sun. At night, it orients itself for the next dawn. It's not conscious in any familiar human sense, but it is responsive, tuned in, awake in a way. Now, look at a bee. It learns which flowers offer the most nectar. It navigates back to the hive and communicates directions through dance. It has memory, it adapts. Then look at a crow that hides food and rehides it when another bird is watching. It's not just memory or emotion, that's social awareness. And finally, look at a child telling a story about who they are, what they want to be, and why they matter. That's selfhood. These aren't stages. There are not steps on the ladder. There are different configurations of conscious traits, and they show up across a wide range of life. So how do we make sense of this? How do we describe these different forms of consciousness without falling back into old binaries? This is where mapping consciousness begins. I break down consciousness into 5 core functional groups, not as a hierarchy, but as a way to map what consciousness looks like across different systems. Here they are. Wakefulness and awareness. Is the system awake and sensing the world? Affective experience. Can it feel? Does it experience pain, pleasure, stress, or comfort? Learning and memory. Can it learn from experience and remember over time? Social cognition. Does it recognize other minds? Does it imitate, deceive, emphasize? Metacognition and selfhood. Can it reflect on itself, plan, or categorize its own identity? Some systems show just 1 or 2 of these. Others show all 5. The point isn't to pass the test. The point is to see how consciousness shows up and what that might mean. Why does this model matter? Because it gives us a way to think with structure without becoming rigid. It respects both the science and the mystery, and it helps us talk about consciousness in animals, machines, children, ourselves with more clarity and less projection. If we can say, this system is awake and it feels pain, that already tells us something meaningful. If we can say, this being shows memory, learning, and social adaptation, we are already far beyond the question of yes or no. And if we can say, here is a mind with narrative, reflection, and planning, we're looking at something rich, but not necessarily more important than the others, just more layered. This model isn't just a list, it's something we can visualize. In future videos, we'll look at consciousness profiles, visual maps that show which functions are present in different systems. You'll see how a bee, a dolphin, a child, or a language model might each light up different parts of the spectrum. This helps us compare without ranking, it helps us understand without reducing, and most importantly, it gives us a way to ask better questions. Consciousness isn't a thing you have, it's a way of being in the world, and there are many ways. This model isn't final, it's a tool, one I'll keep refining as the series unfolds, but for now, it's the heart of this project. It's how I think about presence, awareness, and mind, across species, across systems, across states of being. This isn't just about mapping other systems, it's a way to reflect on your own, on the parts of yourself that think, feel, plan, or simply pay attention. From the flower to the mirror, the spectrum is wide. Let's begin to map it. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing or leaving a comment. It helps more than you might think, and I would love to hear how you see the spectrum unfolding.